What is up, everybody? Star Wars Dad back for another video. Today we're going to be kind of looking at Vader Green again, kind of coming back around to this deck. I saw it do pretty decent in a few tournaments recently, and I figured I'd give it another shot based on how things have developed over the course of the past month or so. I think I did a video on this, like, I want to say like early June, so mid-June maybe. Something around that time, I cannot remember exactly, but it's, you know, it's been a little while and the things have developed a little more. I'm trying to look up when I made this last video on Vader Green. I know it's been a minute. Vader Green. It's saying a month ago, but that's probably more like 7 weeks ago, I want to say. Yeah, 7 to 8 weeks ago. So it's been about 2 months. You know, one of the things I had kind of included in before was Ruck to kind of deal with those bigger answers, but I got away from that in this version. I wanted to focus more on just beating aggro, because Sabine Green has just become so prevalent as that list has really kind of morphed into a better version with the Dark Sabers and 3 Dark Sabers, 3 Poes, 3 Wreckers. And I just feel like if you can't beat that consistently, then there's not really a point in playing a deck in a tournament, like in a competitive tournament, other than if you just want to have fun. So that's kind of where this is a little more focused on the officials, and the, you know, having the Royal Guard as a Sentinel can, you know, sometimes take 2 hits. The Dark Trooper can sometimes take more than that if you play it right, especially with timely intervention. Then we have a couple traders as a way to answer those things, and then you know, kind of have the big payoffs as the game develops. So a lot of low to the ground stuff to survive early and just kind of try to play defense, and then we have some big payoffs with, you know, our top end, and as well as in our sideboard too. So let's kind of talk about my thinking. So I went back and forth. I was looking at some of the lists that did well, and they did not have the Stormtrooper in them, which I'm a big fan of Stormtrooper in Vader, always have been. It's just, I look at it as a 1 resource piece of removal, as well as a finisher with Vader. You can grab it with Vader later. You can grab 1, 2. You can grab a Stormtrooper and something else, a Stormtrooper and a Kylo. You could even do the tie-in fighter instead of Kylo, and then just get a bunch of 1 resource units with Vader, which can help close out the game. Is actually a very good way to deal with control decks, as well as some of the other answers that you have. So I put that back in here. It's not in some of the games at the beginning. I was kind of trying things out, but later on, I put it back in, and it just immediately made me feel better about those matchups, because again, it's like a great way to respond to what my opponent does on turn 1. If you know, if they're a smart player, a smart aggro player, they're just going to claim the initiative so that I can't immediately just kill their unit. If it's Sabine, you know, even they'd rather get him for 3 damage on their next turn than ping me for 1, and then I'll trade with their unit before they get to attack with it, with the Stormtrooper, unless they have a space unit, of course. It also just puts me in a situation where I can weaken things that are on the ground to make them easier to kill with force chokes and open fires and barrages and Vader's ping and all that kind of stuff. So it's just very good in here. It's arguably one of the most important cards at the beginning of the game to find consistently. The 2 timely intervention, I think 2 is the right amount. Some of the lists that I saw did well, did 3. I love timely. It's one of my favorite cards from set 2, but I think 2 is the right amount, because you don't want to have a timely in your hand without a unit, because sometimes your hand gets filled with removal, or an Admiral Piett is not really like a great target for timely. So you don't want to be like have too many of them. You want to be able to use it occasionally with like Phase Dark Trooper or Laser Tech, but you want to a lot of times just resource it and save it for later as a form of pulling something big out, you know, and ambushing in with like a reinforcement walker or a Palpatine or even a Krayt Dragon later on in the game. Especially because it synergizes well with the Admiral's ability. The Admiral Piett being able to ambush in everything late game is really sweet. So those two, because you have that in here too, I don't think you need 3 timely. Admiral Piett is nice because it's an official. I was trying out Scanning Officer in some of the earlier videos in the main board. It just didn't do anything for me. Like, I know it's specifically good against smuggle decks, and that's why it's in the sideboard. You're bringing it in against those decks. I don't think it's main board worthy unless you're just playing like against like Han yellow decks or decks that are just constantly smuggling against you. I think it's a good response to specific decks that are going to be smuggling or trying to smuggle regularly. Even like Han blue, I think it's a good response to them if they're playing tech. A couple copies of tech in their list. The Colonel Yularen is absolutely necessary because of how prevalent aggro is. I think it's just, you're not getting a ton out of it because aggro players are going to be smart enough to just remove it when they see it, unless you are able to protect it with a Sentinel. Because it can really add up quickly as the game goes on, especially like your Vader turn, if you're able to, you're gaining 2 life with Vader and a phased Dark Trooper, and that kind of thing adds up, especially if you roll into a Reinforcement Walker right after that. Reinforcement Walker, of course, is one of your strongest answers as you survive against aggro to kind of turn the game in your corner. 3/4 Stroke, of course, are going to be one of our best answers for aggro decks. Of course, we're paying at the 2 cost. We're not getting too much advantage of being able to play it at 1 cost in here, except later on in the game with a Vader or a Palpatine out. But it's still just a very good response to the Sabine flip turn. It's also just a good response to Boba decks. Not like the shielded units, but more the leader, just to kind of get them in range of us killing them. Then we have 3 Kylo's TIE Silencer. It's a great turn 1 play. It's a good way to make sure that we have a response and space to deal with a space-heavy deck so that they can't run us over without much of an answer if we can't find our open fires. And that's, speaking more on space here for a second, that's why Consortium is just still so important to me in this deck. And the list that I saw, they were playing Black Sun Starfighter, and I get it. I totally get it. You can find it with Vader. It's a Sentinel, but it just immediately dies, and Consortium can often live, and Consortium benefits from timely intervention, and Consortium gains me 2 life occasionally, and that 2 life added with Yularen can really help, added with removal, and Sentinels can really help to keep me in the game long enough to get to my big payoffs. And I know, like, it's a much better card with ECL, but that's what timely does. And, it's still a good answer to deal with things. It has good space stats. There's still not a better space unit that I would use in green to gain life. So I am always going to choose Consortium in a deck where I'm worried about aggro decks over the Sunfighter. But Emperor's Royal Guard gets a little bit better because we added in the Admiral, Piett, and we have the 3 Yularen, so there's 5 officials. If you bring in the Scanning Officer, obviously that makes it even better. But it's still just a good body to trade into things. And also it's a good barrage target, even if it's not a Sentinel. I've gone back and forth between the Royal Guard and the Subblock Guard just because Subblock Guard doesn't demand as much other cards in the list. But I still like the fact that the Royal Guard's green, so it synergizes well with Yularen, and just kind of getting you that subtle life gain in addition to being a Sentinel. So I think you could argue Subblock Guard there too, though. I think it's more player preference and style. I think Royal Guard's going to be dying most of the time anyways in this list because you're not getting it to be a 3/5 like you are in the Palpatine's deck. So, that's why I don't think it matters that much. And a lot of times it's not a Sentinel if you don't find your officials or your opponent removes them. So that's definitely a downside when the whole point of the card is to to block your base from being hurt. So it's definitely a card that I go back and forth on in this list. My set 1 list was much more like official focused, and it made sense in set 1. But in set 2, it's like I need more ways to deal with these powerful units, and I don't know. That's, again, like, Vader's kind of in this place where it's not my top choice of a deck to play right now. It's definitely like I would say it's like on the edge of top 10 decks to play right now for me. Whereas in set 1, it was probably top 3 decks that I wanted to play. I mean, it was up there. It was like, in set 1, it was like Luke Green, Vader Green, and what was the third one? As far as like playing decks that were not Boba Green and Sabine Green, just because I didn't want to play those. I guess for me it was probably Boba Yellow, because that was before Boba Yellow got like super played everywhere. But now, yeah, Vader's probably on the edge of my top 10 if it even makes my top 10. Like, there's just other decks that I prefer to play because it's just missing a few key pieces. I do think that there's a potential with some of the cards I've already seen in set 3 that this deck might have some good help coming. And then even that with all the force units coming, like, I think this is a deck that I'm going to definitely revisit early on. 3 resupply and the 3 laser tech are forms of ramp to help us get to our big payoffs. Obviously, against aggro, we're typically not using those. Occasionally, I might sneak one of them in to flip Vader over earlier, as that can be a way to beat aggros, just to get Vader out quicker. But typically, I'm just trying to survive, so those cards, unless an opportunity presents itself to like trade favorably with the laser tech, with a timely on a 4 resource turn or something, I'm typically resourcing those cards. Sometimes I'll hold them, in case I can use them, and then end up resourcing them later. But most of the time, against all these aggro decks, like, there's maybe on the 6 resource turn I might use one of them, because I can play a Sentinel and play a laser tech or something, but it really just depends on how the game's going. 3 open fire are just necessary and very good. You could play the detention card that does the 6 damage if a unit is captured. I don't see too much capturing going on right now, so I feel like open fire is still the better choice, because 4 damage is a good number to hit against a lot of things. Phased Arc Trooper, of course, is very good in here because of timely intervention. You can really surprise your opponent and kill a thing with a timely, and then have a 4/4 on board if it survives, so that's really good. Imperial Interceptor, I think 2 has always been the number I've played. I just think it, again, 3/2 is not like that great for a 4 resource unit, but the fact that it does 3 damage to a space unit is nice. You're more or less looking at it as a 4 resource piece of removal for a space to go alongside your open fires. So 2 feels good. It's also a decent overwhelming barrage target if you curve into it like that. Overwhelming barrage, of course, is very important, but occasionally in this deck, one of the weaknesses or issues I would say is that your units have just traded into everything to slow your opponent down, and that you don't have a unit to target with barrage, and you're often having to wait for like the Vader flip turn to get your opponent for 7 damage, and sometimes that can just be too late, too little too late. So that is definitely where things can go awry. And around that time, if you don't have a unit to use your barrage on that turn, it can really your opponent can just really get to that 20 damage threshold where you're just like, if they hit the right couple of cards, you're just going to lose. So that is definitely, one of the weaknesses I would say about this list. 2 Traitorous, I think, is very important. Oftentimes against aggro decks in particular, they will put the Darksaber on a Fleet Lieutenant or a Battlefield Marine, for example, and you just can steal that and be like, no more of that, and you can use that unit then to either trade with one of their other big units like a Poe, or you can use it to just take over the game and put pressure on them. So it's really important. It's also good as a way to deal with like Lurking TIE Phantom, which is definitely another. Decks that are focused on the Phantom are also a bit of a weakness in here. I mean, they're going to be difficult. Three Darth Vader, of course. The Mauls, I think you could probably put one Maul in here. I think would be fine. Not sure what I would take out for that. I think if I was gonna play Maul, I'd probably do the cell block guard list, which would be taking out the Admiral and the Royal Guard and putting in 3 cell block guard, and then putting in a Darth Maul, and then what would be the other card I'd want to add in here? Probably the 3rd Reinforcement Walker if I were to do it like that, or maybe a Palp's Return in the main board, just like a one of. Would be a nice way to do it as well. And then the Reinforcement Walker, when I was first playing this list in the video, I was playing 3 Reinforcement Walker, and it definitely was the card that won me the games a lot of times. I went down to 2 and kind of went more with the traditional, not necessarily traditional, but to include Krayt Dragon in the main board to be a little more well-rounded for, you know, games that last a little longer or control matchups as a late game response, to go with other things that I have in this list. But I could totally see the 3rd Reinforcement Walker being a card that I would bring in, potentially back in, if I played this deck a lot, just because that card advantage and the life gain is just really, really important. It's almost like you're hanging on a cliff and Reinforcement Walker continuously is pulling you up from, or keeping you from falling off the cliff, is what I would describe it. And that's like that 20 damage threshold, right? Like it keeps you right around there instead of getting it to the mid-20s where you're definitely going to lose. So it's really a lifesaver, and you know, there's totally makes sense to play 3. Like I said, if I played this deck more and got away from the Royal Guard package and went to the cell block package, I may even just add a Darth Maul and a Reinforcement Walker. It'd be that simple, and to go along the cell block guard. But you know, more testing if you're going to be playing this deck competitively. 2 Palpatine, of course, is like your late game barrage. It's great with, you know, the Admiral and the timely intervention as well, to be able to do 6 damage and ambush the thing, which is awesome. And you can order the triggers, of course. And then your other finisher is 2 Krayt Dragon in the main board. Just kind of a well-rounded way to close out the game. Helps against control. You know, even aggro, if you make it there, it's a good card to just kind of help you to remove things. Also, it's just really sweet to barrage with the Krayt Dragon and do 12 damage. On the sideboard, we have the 2 Scanning Officer for those you know, heavy smuggle decks that you run into. The 2 Pillage. I've gone back and forth between 2 and 3 in the sideboard, but I think I like having that as an option for those control matchups and just decks that are weak to Pillage, that Pillage can really benefit, or really help you swing the game in your favor if you get their hand size really low. The 2 Palpatine's Return is for Vader and Palpatine to get them back. And of course, if you bring in the Maul, then that becomes even a little bit better. And then 2 Relentless and 2 Devastator as well for dealing with more control builds, games that are going to take a little longer. So again, like, this deck is still a lot of fun. I really enjoy this deck, but you know, it's just kind of in that area of, like, I still find it competitive. It's still strong, don't get me wrong, but it's just missing that oomph piece for me that, like, puts it in that top tier. I feel like it's just like, it was definitely top tier in set 1, but I think that aggro has just gotten a little too strong, and aggro is already a weakness in set 1, and it you know, really had to work hard to figure that matchup out. But now I just feel like it's just a little bit in their favor, because we have to really find Sentinels and a removal early to really stay with them. And if they find, you know, first of all, if they're a very good player that already just, I would just say that puts them in favor, because we're already at a disadvantage. And then, you know, then we have to find the right pieces at the right time. We can't draw too much into these higher end things, or we're not going to survive. You could even argue that Top Target might be a card that you would play in here just at 3 resources, which I'm not opposed to. That's what I love about Top Target, is that you can play it in these type of decks. Just as a way to gain that 4 to 6 life could really help swing things, you know, around that 6 resource turn when you can play it alongside a piece of removal or a sentinel. Or, you know, play it on turn 2 and then remove it. You know, so it's an option as well. And stuff like that is what I love about this game, is that you can just include things like that to really, you know, swing things in your favor a little bit more against the matchups that you're really worried about. But again, you don't want to change too much of the core of what this deck is trying to do by doing things like that. So it's definitely a fine line and a balance to that. But I mean, overall, this deck is a lot of fun. Love Krayt Dragon, love Palpatine, Reinforcement Walker, Vader. So much fun. Obviously, the Force Choke and Open Fire are very good pieces of removal. But yeah, as always, please like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and make sure you go to the community page for the 2,500 subscriber giveaway. Once we get to 2,500, I will be giving away all of these prizes, and there's 4 lucky winners will be chosen to receive these prizes. But as always, let's get into some games and see how this deck performs. Alright, up against Sabine Green here. Got the Kylo into Consortium, which is pretty good, I think. Don't have anything on the ground. We're kind of being more of the aggressor, I think, in this situation, with a little bit of life gain with Consortium. I don't know. It feels questionable. I'd rather have removal. Okay. This is a little better. Being the aggressor is not the worst thing, but you gotta have a piece of removal in there to slow things down, because they're still gonna be more aggressive than you. So I think we can let go of probably laser attack, and then maybe 1 barrage. Traders could be big if they like put a Darksaber on one of their cheaper resourced units. If they go space, we'll just go open fire. Okay, they went there. Still might just do open fire, because they could pump that up easily with Wing Leader, and that would be bad. Just want to get our value out of our open fire as well. I like drawing into this. Just double sentinels isn't the worst. Kind of like having the variety, though. I like Traitorous, like I said, as an option when we get to that turn. I'm just going to open fire here just to prevent Battlefield Marine from doing anything. If we were playing ECL, I'd probably ECL in, but we are not. Just trying to slow the damage output from them right now. Next turn, it would be really nice to draw into a Timely. I think that would be good as a way to pump up the Phase Dark Trooper potentially. The card that we don't want to see is like Cassian. Fleet Lieutenant's fine, especially a Fleet Lieutenant that didn't get to do anything. There's a Timely. Unfortunately, it is just going to trade. And trading is not the best thing ever. I almost think it's better to just open fire here. And then save the Dark Trooper for next turn. With the Yularen. If they put another cheap 3-drop unit, it looks like they're going straight for the Darksaber play here, though, so that's unfortunate. That's like the worst thing they could have against us, especially when we don't have the Force Choke. And that's why I wanted to save this, the Dark Trooper. I don't think we need this at this point. Unfortunately, we're just going to play the Dark Trooper first. They're probably going to ECL, though, to kill it. Yeah, this is kind of what happens. This matchup, this is why I don't... In general, Vader Green to me is just not a deck I want to play because of this. We don't have the best answers. Force Choke is like okay, but you have to have it. Okay, well that wasn't the worst thing ever. It's interesting that they didn't ECL. And we're getting closer. Yeah, there's that. I would have totally ECL'd. There, he's at 5. There's a Force Choke, okay. Still not great because Poe's out there. I mean, we can at least kill one of these things. Barrage doesn't really do it. So we don't have a strong unit. This is going to be tough. I mean, 2 basically 6-powered units on board is without a real strong answer. It's not great. I mean, maybe we made a mistake in not keeping the second phase Dark Trooper, but I mean, our best bet at this point is to flip Vader. We're gonna attack into Poe with Yularen if Yularen stays alive, just to be able to, so that it trades with Vader potentially, or that even if Vader's able to live, then we can barrage it. But at this point, we're really hoping on Reinforcement Walker saving us in 2 turns, which is going to be difficult. I mean, they're gonna swing in for 8 here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could kill Sabine, but I think we just need to set up the knockout on Poe, take our damage, and move on with our life. Traitors isn't bad next turn, but who do I want to deal damage to? Probably red 3 so we can ping it with Vader once we attack in. If there's so many things we have to choose from. I mean, basically having Barrage and Traitors is great, but it's tough, man. It's tough out here. Taking 9? Yeah. It's a lot. That's a lot of damage. It's quite a lot of damage. This is what... I mean, the best thing we could draw into is Force Choke. I think. Force Choke into Barrage, so that we slow down their damage output. If he makes us discard here, we're just going to discard Traitors. Because Force Choke into Barrage would be our best bet next turn. We've already used 1 Force Choke, so we'll see. It's not looking pretty, though. I mean, this is why I feel like I cannot play this deck right now, is because this matchup is just too hard. Yeah, we've already used everything. So I need to find Force Choke. Okay, that's not great that they found room to fit in another card. Okay, that's not the worst thing, but it's still too expensive. Traitors isn't doing much for us. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can recover from this. We're just gonna have to deploy. Take our 9 again, and hope they don't have 2 for a cause of leave-ins in their hand. So we're going to be doing 7 damage. I mean, at the very least, we can kill their entire board and attack into Poe after that, but interesting. He did not do that correctly. Okay. That's really odd. I think that was a misplay by our opponent. So we live to see another day because of a misplay, but I mean, we could have still survived with Reinforcement Walker next turn, but it was going to be a lot more difficult. Another Poe. Okay. Well, I mean, we're just going to trade with that. Okay, or he's trading with us, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I think we've turned the corner, but it's not easy, man. It ain't easy out here. I'll let one of these Imperials go. I still think Traitorous is a good card for us. Reinforcement Walker into Barrage is really nice next turn, so. Get down to 18. Just claim the initiative. And Barrage our opponent. Either that or Traitorous. Interesting. Not sure how much I need Piett at this point. Probably just going to go Consortium Traitorous. Well, let's just... He could have a Timely to kill us. Which we definitely don't want that to happen. He can't kill it though, so let's just Traitorous. Can use Imperial Interceptor if he plays anything in space to remove it. Can Barrage next turn. Can trade on the ground with Battlefield Marine with anything that's weak on the ground. You know, it's unfortunate that this deck is kind of like on the fence of being playable, because it's a very fun deck to play first set, but it's really just yeah, there's the 4 cost, okay, but it's tough out here, man. If he plays anything on the ground, we trade with it with Battlefield Marine. Okay. No, don't need that. He's got 2 resources. What's he got here? Yeah, we don't want to weaken this to put it in range of Wrecker with the Timely. I mean, he could still kill us with a Timely Wrecker, but he at least has to play both those cards, and then his Wrecker would die, so. Don't need laser tech anymore. Not too worried about that. We do have a Timely in here too, right? So we can just go face. So now we're in range of winning, especially with the Barrage. So, and there's no way with 3 resources he can kill our Reinforcement Walker. So, we'll do 5 and 3, and we will attack him with Reinforcement Walker for game. Good game. Alright, we have a pretty strong hand here this time. Mulligan, no. Let's let go of Palpatine and probably, I guess, one of the Dark Troopers. I don't know. It's tough. Alright, claim initiative. Okay, open fire is good. I don't think we need Royal Guard now. Interesting, our opponent did not damage us, which is odd. If we find another Force Choke here, that would be great. We did not. We could timely this out, make it a 4/4. It's not the worst thing ever. It's really not the worst thing ever. Yeah. It puts him in a position where he has to attack into it, we put damage on him, and then we can force choke anything on the ground. Especially because he's 4 causing here, which is not the best Sabine flip play. I'm not sure if our opponent is just inexperienced or it's just... They haven't even damaged us yet. I'm not sure. It's so hard to find good Sabine Green matchups. Okay. We could play Force Choke, Laser Tech. I think it's worth it. Do we have another time in here? No. He hasn't done much damage to us. Do we just Force Choke the Sabine? No, I think we could actually just play Laser Tech and kill it. See what he does. If he puts a Dark Saber on it or something, we'll Force Choke it. If he doesn't, he just does that. I'm just gonna save the Force Choke. Take the 3 damage. Just do it that way. Okay. So we have to sneak out Vader next turn, which is sweet. So if he doesn't attack with it immediately, we just Force Choke it. Okay, he went in for the attack. It's fine. Take our 8. No big deal. I still think we Force Choke it just to save our barrage for everything else that he does. It also gives us the potential to Traitorous. But I like just the barrage play. So we can, you know, get more effectiveness out of the... Okay, another one. Well then, doesn't that make it easy? Okay, he's actually pinging now. If he plays anything else for 1, we just kill it, but he did not. Pass. Okay. Pass. Reinforcement marker is good. So is Barrage or Traitorous here. I'm going to hold on to the reinforcement marker this time though, because that will help us seal the deal. And it also gives us a second barrage target. Okay, he's ECLing in our boy. Yeah, I mean that's fine because he kills it. Does 5, then he attacks it. Gets in for 4. It's fine. Sure. Okay. Is he claiming the initiative? I'm sure. Gets in for 7, that's fine. Palp's good, Consortium's good, Traitors is good, all these cards are good. We're just gonna pass. We're gonna take 7 here. Due to the situation that we're in, we're gonna take 7. We're gonna have to immediately attack with Reinforcement Marker to gain the 3 life back. Okay, well that's nice too. Take 9, yeah. No. Go down to 4, see what he does here. Timely K2SO, that's wonderful. Take 3. Okay. So we're just going to claim the initiative because we want to make sure that we are able to gain 3 life immediately. Okay. Piett is not the worst thing ever here. I'm just gonna keep all this stuff. You have to think at a certain point he's gonna run out of amazing answers every step of the way. With the dumbest deck in the format. Sure. I mean, we're at that stage where, like, it just makes sense to claim the initiative here. Because we don't want him to have another for a cause. So, yep. I mean, I don't think our opponent played optimally the whole game. I think he missed a few pings, which definitely adds up. But you get the idea. Like, this deck is decent. It's just, this is ridiculous, this deck. It's not rocket science to play it. It's just way too streamlined with way too many ridiculously powerful cards for very cheap. So, I mean, that card is incredibly hard to play against. Alright, we're up against probably Hanzu, which is becoming increasingly popular. No, I mean, I like our early game life gain. I think we can let go of Timely, and it's either Resupply or Vader. I think it's got to be Vader just because it's such a card that is not going to be useful early on. Okay, 2 damage. Fighters for Freedom. Okay, we'll play the Emperor's Royal Guard here. Put another Timely in our resources, which is good to know. Get a Sentinel down. He does have Saboteur, but still a good card against him. Honestly, I think... Well, we don't want to lose the Sentinel, so... Just gonna go face. Interesting. He did not attack. Maybe he does not realize that he could have attacked. I don't know. Timely here, phase our trooper here. And a force choke. I just kind of find ourselves like in this situation where we don't want to play Resupply as much as I would like to. Like, I want all these removal against them because it's just too good. The Sentinels are good. I want the open fire in case they go space. Okay, well that's a stupid card to play because we can just attack into it. What do I want to do here? Go Fighters, I think. Because then Cassian has to trade with it. We can finish off Maz Kanata with Yularen. And then we can save our removal. I think that makes the most sense. Okay, he has the ECL, sure. Okay. Sure. Okay. So we want to go... Phase Dark Trooper trades with Cassian. I think that's fine. I like Phase Arc Trooper next turn, but that costs 5 resources. Let's just do this. Gain a life, and then we're going to attack. Use Yularen to kill Kanata as long as he doesn't have some other way to cheat it in. Yeah. Okay. Feels like we did good there. We can ping him, can't we? Yeah, we can ping him. Why is it not working? Sometimes, man. Yeah, we played Phase Arc Trooper. We can ping him. For 1, which does matter. Why is it not letting us do it? Now we're gonna deal damage to Sabine. Pass. Okay. I think we just want removal. I mean, I don't dislike laser teching in here to get to Vader quicker as a way to kill Sabine. Get to Vader a turn earlier. But we are sacrificing removal for that? I guess. We were still getting to trade with something. If he plays a unit first or does something else, then what? Our opponent just left? I guess because he hasn't put any damage on us, and he knows we're getting to a Vader turn. Yeah, I mean, we did a good job at stabilizing. Our Sentinels did a really good job slowing things down. I mean, if you have hands like this, which is heavy removal and heavy Sentinels, yeah, you're gonna do well against aggro. And I mean, we haven't even found a barrage yet. We're getting closer and closer to Palpatine, and those cards are really, really good against this type of deck, where we can just spread a large amount of damage against a bunch of weak units. I mean, I'm sure they have, you know, like Poe and Wrecker at the top end, and maybe even like that other 6-drop. I can't think of the name right now. That has grit and comes into play ready when there's more than 15 damage. But yeah, we were doing a good job here of just kind of slowing things down. I mean, to be fair though, we had a very, very good hand. I mean, we had those 2 Sentinels. We had a lot of removal options. The Sentinels did a lot of work to slow things down so we could hold the removal. And then we're about to, you know, finally ambush in something to get value to go to Vader next turn, so good game. Alright, up against Boba Green. No. I like our hand. So I go 1 Vader and I like holding on to 1 resupply just because it allows us to flip Vader a turn earlier and kind of surprise our opponent. Also, depending on what our opponent does, we might just resupply next turn, so we shall see. We shall see. It also gets us to Vader, the other Vader, sooner too. So sometimes just going to Vader the leader is just the best thing to do, like as quickly as possible, and just getting it out there, and especially against a deck like this with a bunch of weak units. And if they ambush in with Cloud Rider, I really don't care. Okay, Mercenary Gunship. Yeah. Open fire is strong. This kind of puts me in a... I want to just get the guard out here as a 3/4, or do I want to resupply to be at barrage next turn, or do I want to just open fire? There's a lot of decisions here. Like, ideally I would just get rid of Vader, but we already got rid of 1 Vader and that doesn't feel great. We have barrage, so maybe we're letting go of open fire here, I think. Did our opponent just disconnect while we figured out our life? It appears to be so. Okay, no, he's playing. Okay. Yeah, I just want to have a target for overwhelming barrage with the guard if he even survives, which is... Yeah, so he did resupply. That's okay. We have traders as well. Well, clearly all we're doing here is resupplying. So it gets us a step closer. We can barrage next turn. He's going to clearly flip Boba this turn. So our thing that we're going to do here is attacking with the Royal Guard. Attacking with Yularen. Okay, our opponent disconnected again. Okay. Well, that's exciting. I'll give him 30 seconds here to reconnect. He's just having connection issues, or he's just doesn't want to play against Vader Green. I don't know. But yeah, I like having the two traders because it's always like a good way of dealing with these types of things. Not, I mean, we could steal this anyways this turn if we wanted to. Honestly, as an option, but yeah, I don't think our opponent's coming back. So, oh well. Alright, up against Boba Yellow here. No, I like our hand. Double Stormtrooper start is pretty good. Feels good. I mean, they have ambush, but I'm okay with that. Gotta have Cloud Rider. Okay, that's a good one too. Okay. Guess our opponent said my hand sucks and Vader's about to beat me? I don't know. Alright, we got solid hand. No removal, but we have Stormtrooper and Dark Trooper, so that's pretty good. I like Piett as an option in case we draw into Royal Guard. I'm trying to think how important resupply is going to be here. Probably not that important. Probably just hold on to one of these timelies. Okay, our opponent just chose not to ping, which is fine. See what our opponent does here if they ambush in. I doubt it. I really don't want to get rid of Traitorous. Timely's kind of awkward right now. Well, isn't that not great? Yeah, just get it for damage. Is he claiming the initiative again? Interesting, okay. Open fire's good. Unfortunately, we can't open fire and force choke this turn. I'm trying to think. I think open fire is more important because we take out red 3. I don't want to get rid of Traitors. I mean, don't want to get rid of Yularen as subtle life gains. Traitors could be really impactful too, though. There's so many tough choices here. Decisions, decisions, decisions. Alright, I'll let Yularen go. Just go with the removal package. Let's see what our opponent does here. Okay. Cool. It's fine, actually. Yeah, that's actually pretty good, I would say. We're going to attack into Akbar and become a 4/4 here. Sabine can't kill us anyways because the red 3 is gone. We're only going to take 1. So actually, Phase Dark Trooper will become a 5/5. Yeah. Which is really good. And then we can barrage next turn at 7 damage. And just wipe the board. Which is disgusting. And our opponent said no more for him. So it's weird because I've been having a lot of concessions, like, and it's odd because I totally think that this deck has a tough aggro matchup, but these aggro decks just get tired of us with the removal and the sentinels. And I guess in that way it is very similar to a control deck. An aggro players sometimes just don't want to play against control, but like, to me, if I'm playing Sabine Green, like I want to see Vader Greens, I want to see control. Those are my best matchups. You just gotta play it right. I mean, I think getting the Stormtrooper down is ideal turn 1 play, but we didn't even get to use it for what I ideally like to use it for, which is use it as a piece of removal, and actually just got killed. And all it did was put in 3 damage because they went space the first 2 turns. So it's not like the game was going so heavily in our favor. Like, I don't know. I mean, the Sentinel situation there, I guess that was pretty strong because they were going into a barrage, and like that's going to be really hard for them to recover from. They're really going to, I mean, because we're going to have the initiative if they flip Sabine. Their other option is to not flip and then maybe like ECL in with Poe and then flip, which actually would have been a better option in my opinion, but I don't know what they had in their hand. So that was just a odd game. I'm just assuming that things just weren't going good. All of these Sabine matchups in this video have been very weird. I don't know if I'm just, people are just getting bad draws, or if like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything that's like mind-boggling. I mean, I know going into this that Sabine Green is one of my toughest matchups, and that's why I've been trying to showcase that matchup, because it just really doesn't feel good for me. But I do think we have good enough weapons to be able to try to deal with it, but it's still not easy. Like for example, like a lot of times Dark Trooper just gets removed right here because normally it's a 3/3, and Akbar just happened to be a perfect card for us to attack into. But then what happens is Barrage just dies if they ECL in with the K2SO, for example, and then we have no Sentinel, and then he's just hitting our face, and then we're trying to recover. But at that point, Barrage, would not be effective, and our best bet would be to either Traitorous next turn or to Force Choke something and maybe draw into another piece of removal if we're lucky, or another Phase Dark Trooper. So that's kind of like when the matchup starts to go downward for us very quickly. And then we're just trying to survive to get to like Vader and Reinforcement Walker and Palpatine, or Vader Barrage turn to slow things down. But by that point, we're at like 22, 23 damage. And if we don't find Yularen again when we need him, or Reinforcement Walker, it's just bad. So it's not a fun matchup for this deck. And that's why, as much as I love this deck, I can't see myself going in with this deck against a very good Sabine Green player at a tournament and feeling confident that I'm going to come out on top. Like, it feels like I'm walking into a fire and just being like without a hose, like, how am I going to stop this fire? It just doesn't, I think we're missing like 1 or 2 cards that could help us to make this deck stronger. And again, maybe there's a better list, but I have played this deck a lot. I loved it in set 1. I kind of figured out the aggro matchup. In set 2, though, with Poe, Wrecker, and Darksaber, I don't think this deck has gotten enough in set 2 to be able to deal with those things. So, all right, up against Han Zoo here, most likely. Would I like to mulligan? No, we'll get rid of Palpatine and resupply, I think. It's a turn 1. Probably turn 2 is Consortium, most likely. Okay. Do this, we can ping something that he damages, potentially. Okay, we're just gonna claim the initiative and just trade with the Battlefield Marine. Don't need Krayt Dragon right now. But Force Choke is an option. So again, you know, against this type of deck here, we're just trying to get to the late game, get to our Vader, our Reinforcement Walker, and our opponent is done. I don't know what it is, man. I can't get a good game lately. A lot of these really, I don't know how else to say it without sounding disrespectful, but these simplistic aggro decks where they're just like throwing units at the board. Once they see that I'm going to trade favorably with them on turn 2, they just have been quitting on Carebast. Okay, never mind. I spoke too soon. Okay, so here we have Force Choke, or Consortium is what we're going to be looking at. So we're definitely going to stick Consortium out there. He has to either trade into us or just die. I don't want to get rid of that because it is one of our best ways to get this game back in check. Okay, so a simple way to deal with this now is to open fire. Do I want to take 4 again? I don't think so. Okay. So we could timely an Emperor's Royal Guard here. Kind of like I don't want this card to get too crazy because it is annoying. I think that's honestly our best move, to just get that off the board. We're not going to be able to benefit from this being a Sentinel this turn, but that's okay. That's a card that's a very cheap card that can get really, really crazy and stupid. The best card they could have this turn is Poe. Okay. They could have a Poe into a Han, or just go really, really wide, which it looks like is what they're about to do. Yeah, so that's not great either, because we don't have the barrage currently. We do have Yularen, so Yularen will help, but yeah, that's his. Okay. Interesting that he did not do anything there. Alright, we're at 6 resources here. We can go Yularen into Consortium into Stormtrooper, or Yularen Stormtrooper into Force Choke. Force Choke feels pretty good. So I think I want to leave that option open. Having a Consortium is strong too. Unfortunately, I think this is the odd man out. It does trade well with a lot of these units though. So we're just not using the Force Choke this turn. This is tough, man. Tough, tough, tough. Tough. I think it's Stormtrooper. Okay, so first thing I want to do here is kill the Heroic Renegade, I think. Just because that gets stronger. Currently, this isn't a Sentinel, so he may not be... Okay, he did do that. Cool. Well, we can Force Choke Battlefield here, which also allows us to ping something, which we can either ping R2 or Wing Leader. Okay. I think I'm gonna go Get rid of R2 just because R2 allows him to see his top card and figure things out. We're going to go here. Claim the initiative to gain 2 life. Again, yeah, there's the Poe, but he didn't ECL it in. So, still a great card to have, though. Yeah. None of this is great. Yeah, I think that's the odd man out here. We need to gain a little bit of life. So our first play is deploy Vader, I think. Again, in these matchups, like, Vader is very much just bait, because Poe is a problem. So he could kill us without Poe dying, and then we'll just open fire the Poe. What we don't want is 8 damage to our face. If he does that, which he might, then we can still kill him. Yeah, he's killing Vader. Like I said, it's bait. Yep. It's fine, we still have the initiative, so we're going to use that. Before we kill Poe, we're going... Interesting. That's interesting. It's not what I was expecting. He did 2 to us. Okay. Very interesting. So... Okay, we're gonna do... like that, and then open fire the Poe. And then we're gonna use Consortium to kill the Wing Leader. Yeah, that was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. He's killing Vader? Nope. Okay, so we're going here. Gain our 2 life, kill the space unit, and then we're gonna open fire the Poe. Okay, he's using ECL, so that's bad. We can open... He chose not to ambush it. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, all this is strong. That's actually worse. These are all bad. They're all bad. We gotta kill one of them. 9 damage is definitely worse than 8 damage. Plus, yeah, I mean, he has lethal. Reinforcement Walker will save us, but I don't know how much. That was a very good back-to-back couple of turns, and that's really the card that really sucks. Is, like, if we had 2 open fires, that would be nice. Let's see what our opponent does here. He's probably claiming the initiative, I would imagine. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Well, that's something. Barrage is big, actually. Unfortunately, he's going to attack him with the Poe first. That really stinks, like, with the situation we're in, because if he doesn't attack with Poe, then Barrage is like the easiest Barrage ever. I guess we gotta just see what he does. If he does attack with Poe, then we'd have to play Reinforcement Walker. Not necessarily, we can kill... Okay, he's discarding going to our face for 8. Oh, he's killing Consortium. Okay. Again, not what I would have expected. Poe is still a problem here. Do we take this? Eesh. So we get down to 21. If he plays another unit, yeah, it's either way, it's just not great. Okay, he claimed he passed. Okay. No. Alright, is Reinforcement Walker enough? I don't know. We'll see. A barrage with the Reinforcement Walker is great. See what our opponent does here. If he plays another unit, then we can definitely claim the initiative, and we have barrage at 8 damage, but it really depends on what he has in his hand. I don't know if he's disconnected because he's feels like he lost. I mean, this game, in my opinion, this game is not over. It's very close to me losing. Reinforcement Walker is definitely holding us on the cliff, as I was talking about in the intro. I don't think he's coming back this time. So, yeah, the barrage in her hand, that's going to be the key card here. I'm assuming that he has something that was too expensive to play. That's why he didn't play anything. Yeah. It seems like usually when it gives me the option to claim victory, that means that they just like X'd out. So I would imagine that it means our opponent didn't have anything and he felt like he was going to lose. But I mean, you can see like it's tough, man. It's tough out here in these streets. Like, this is a tough matchup. This is probably one of the toughest matchups for this deck. I would say even tougher than Sabine. I mean, sometimes the early Sentinels can be enough to slow their weaker units down. We didn't really find that, and that's where you kind of get into that debate. Like Royal Guard, you saw like what it did. It did okay, but it wasn't a Sentinel, so it didn't slow down a ton of things, and R2-D2 was able to remove it. Not that that would have necessarily changed much. Our opponent did attack into units a little bit more than our base, and maybe that was a misplay on his part. I get what he was thinking, like, I don't want to keep having to deal with these units that are gaining, but you kind of see, like, even that one turn that Consortium did a few things for us, right? It prevented space from getting out of control because of that, what was it, that red 3 early on that was a 4/5? And then, you know, we were able to gain, I want to say 2 to 4 life this game. I cannot remember exactly from Consortium. We gained like maybe 1 or 2 life from Yularen, but just that 4 or 5 life was just enough to kind of keep this matchup in range. And then Reinforcement Walker comes in to, like I said, be the cliffhanger, keep us alive. So a lot of games, this card is really the card that helped us to win these aggro matchups. So, you know, as I have played through this deck now, probably what, 9 games, I would say that Reinforcement Walker is our late game MVP, absolutely, against aggro decks. So back for the post game wrap up. So this deck ended up going 7-2, like, and I don't know, like, I mean, I know that that's a good record. It's just more like, and I'm a very experienced Vader Green player. What I'm trying to say is, like, don't take that at face value. Some of those matchups I feel like easily could have gone in a different direction if our opponent had made more optimal plays. If we're playing against a very good Sabine Green player, for example, in some of those Sabine games. We did go 3-0 against Sabine Green. The 2 losses were Rey Green and then Young Han Yellow deck that just was way too aggressive for us. Young Han in general, aggro decks are just very hard. We did beat both the Young Han Green decks. The second time, I do feel like, you know, that last game, I do feel like that could have gone either way. I do think we were at a good place with that barrage into the Reinforcement Walker, and that really could have potentially took us over the top. But we'll never know. Based on what our opponent had in his hand, I'm assuming it wasn't strong enough. But I mean, overall, you know, again, this deck's very competitive. It's just more like, is it in my top 3, my top 5? No, it's more like right around the top 10. It's a deck that I really enjoy playing. And I did tweak this list a little bit based on just how things went from the testing, which I always do in these videos, in case you haven't seen any of my videos or whatever. But I put a third reinforcement walker back in the list, and I just cut one Kylo's TIE silencer. I just felt like 2's good, especially because it's a unique unit. You know, it's not a card I want to see like multiples of throughout the game. I just want to have one out there or find one with the Vader. And reinforcement walker is extremely, extremely important to helping us to stabilize, to even be able to get to... I mean, against all these aggro decks, it literally has saved my life so many times. It's the ultimate cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone, just like holding us on, man. Pulling us off the cliff. Like, it's just such a amazing card. And then what was anything else that I would change? I mean, you could still do the cell block card package. I do think the one benefit of Royal Guard is that it has the 4 HP. So like if green black or green villainy gets like a better sentinel, like a 4 resource 4/5 or something, or even a 4/4, I don't know. 4/5 would be sweet, but something a little stronger. I did see that new card Gore, which is like a 7/7 sentinel at 6 resources if you have 3 units out, and I do think that will fit pretty good in this deck. That's a very strong sentinel, and it has ambush and overwhelm, so you can come in, kill a thing, and then block things afterwards. It's pretty sweet. I think if I was going to include that card in this list going forward, when set 3 comes out, I would probably cut the Kylo's TIE Silencer, put the tie-in fighter back in, just so I have more opportunities to get more units on the ground, so that I can benefit from Gore's exploit ability, which exploit, if you're not familiar, it just means you can destroy 3 units to be able to play the card a lot cheaper. So it's obviously going to be very, very good in those droid decks, but I still think it has a place in here. To basically, you're combining 3 units to make a 7/7 with ambush, overwhelm, and sentinel at 6 resources, which just feels incredibly good. But yeah, I mean, how do you guys like to play Vader Green? Have you found success with anything different than what I'm doing, or do you have some of the same struggles? I mean, again, 7-2, like, it's still good. But again, you know, I feel like some of our opponents didn't make the optimal plays, and then we had a lot of people just quit. So, you know, take that for what it is. I mean, we did have good hands and good situation lined up in those games where they quit, so it wasn't like it didn't, you know, wasn't like we didn't have a high likelihood of winning, but who knows how those games could have gone. Could have gone either way. But you kind of get the idea, you know, like against those aggro decks, like if they get to that 20, over that 20 damage threshold, and we don't find a way to turn things around consistently, like it can get really difficult. And that's why, like, Yularen, Consortium, and Reinforcement Walker, those 9 cards in here are just so pivotal. We have to gain life, so maybe there'll be a green villainy card that gains us more life too, like has restore 2, just like all the time, instead of when we have the initiative or something. I don't know. That would be really nice too. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the gameplay. As always, y'all have a good one, and peace out.